All of my lovelies, it's me, author Alexandrian Fonte. Hi. So, I have my beanie on because I actually had to go out, but and it's raining. Fall is finally setting in, and I'm so happy. I know people aren't because fall brings winter, especially New Yorkers, or kind of not, but I am because I'm sick of the humidity and the heat. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about this series here. This is my sort of dark, kind of dark, maybe it's dark, crime syndicate romance. It is called the Concilium Crime Syndicate. And so far it has 3 books. And I will be giving this away as well for the Halloween book giveaway I'm going to do. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about it. So, this series here entails 3 crime factions. You have the Bratva, which is the first book, Mine to Bin. It is Demetrius Boraskova. This is the Russian faction. And then you have Mind to Instruct, which is the Irish faction. And then you have Mind to Warp, which is the German faction. And each book introduces you to a new faction. But the faction is all hooked up together. So basically, it's 3 crime princes. They are princes who basically want to run the Concilium. The Concilium is old. They're tired of the ways that they've ran the Concilium, and they want new, young, fresh blood in there. And so Demetrius is the first prince of the Bratva faction, and he basically takes down the Concilium. And in this book here, Selena Escobar Delgado is the daughter of the Delgado Syndicate. And Gabriel Delgado, the king, basically is good friends with Demetrius. His brother Renoir and Demetrius pretty much grew up together, and then Demetrius got deported back to Russia, and he had to go work for his father, and his father was like insane, crazy. And so Demetrius was doing stuff that no 16-year-old should be doing, and then he got into it with his father because he wouldn't murk one of his childhood friends. Him and his father got into it. His father like beat him like pretty much, really bad, put him in the hospital, and then he left the hospital room. 2 days later, went to his dad's office and capped him twice in the dome. And then he became Bratva Prince at 17 years old. And he's ran this since he was 17 years old. And so, because he knows Gabe, because Gabe is Renoir's brother, and they pretty much went up the ranks of the Latin Kings, Gabriel is pissed off because Demetrius became prince, and Demetrius took his brother Renoir with him and rose up the ranks, but he left Gabe. And so Gabe has had this issue with them ever since. And so Gabe steals $3.5 million, 6 ungay shipments, and basically screws him with the Concilium. And so now the Concilium is like, you fix it or else. And so he winds up having to pop Gabriel, but they have what's called a blood tie. And a blood tie is if you have wronged another faction, they can call a blood tie against you or anyone in your family. And 9 times out of 10, it's done against women. And so he makes Gabriel, before he unalives him, sign a blood tie to his daughter, Selena. Selena is the oldest girl. And so he gets to take Selena. And so therein lies all the drama. But here's the thing. Selena was, even though she isn't in this world because her mom died when she was 16 and she didn't want anything to do with her father, that life, all of that. So she didn't touch the money he put in a trust for her. She worked herself through college from like server jobs and that kind of stuff. And she became, she works now for this prestigious law firm, which is ironically funny. She changed her name. And then basically here comes Demetrius. But here's the thing. She was, even though she wasn't in that life, she was trained in that life. And so basically she's a bad you-know-what. And so he takes her and he gets more than he's bargained for. So that is the first book, Mind to Bend. And then the second book is Mind to Instruct. Third, Mind to Warp. And they are each factions of this Concilium and what's going on in it. So it is not dark romance like something like Haunting Adeline. I don't do that kind. I can't even read that kind. But it is like if you had contemporary, and then you had dark romance. The Concilium crime would be right in the middle of those two because it's not regular contemporary because it's a little bit too dark for regular contemporary, but it's not dark romance either because the premise of that dark romance, some of the things are in this series, but not like the huge trigger warning ones where you're just like, ah, or you're just like, ooh, depending on where your reading level lies. So it is a dark romance because it's different from a regular contemporary because there's violence, there's sexual situations, there's lots of profanity, there's unaliving because it's a crime syndicate. So those things right there inline it with a darker romance because I couldn't label it a regular contemporary because of those things. So it is a dark romance, but nothing like, Haunting Adeline or one of those. It's a crime syndicate, and it's in the cusp of dark romance and contemporary romance. So check it out. It's called The Concilium Crime Syndicate. The first book is Mind to Bend. You can look for the book trailers on my page. I actually made a new one today that I'm going to put up after this video, so in case you're interested, you will know. Once again, Mind to Bend. Alexandria Infante at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. And Amazon is print and ebook, and then Barnes & Noble is ebook. And this is basically the Delgados telling of all of this because each of these women in this series are connected to the Delgado Syndicate faction. So check it out.